The autumn sunset paints my parents' suburban home in amber light as I pull into the driveway. Sunday dinner, a tradition I've maintained despite the subtle tensions that have shadowed our family for years. I smooth my charcoal pencil skirt and straighten my cream blouse before stepping out of my sensible sedan. Through the bay window, I catch a glimpse of movement, laughter. Something feels different tonight. I knock twice before using my key, a habit my mother instilled in me since childhood. Always announce yourself, Michelle. It's the polite thing to do. The scent of roast chicken and rosemary potatoes wraps around me as I step inside. Family photos line the hallway, decades of carefully arranged memories. My high school graduation, Rachel's college ceremony. Family vacations where I always seemed to be half smiling while everyone else beamed. Michelle, is that you? Mom calls from the dining room. It's me, I answer, hanging my coat on the wooden rack by the door. I follow her voice and freeze at the threshold. Rachel stands by the china cabinet wearing a burgundy cocktail dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her hair is freshly highlighted, cascading in perfect waves around her shoulders. Dad pours champagne into crystal flutes, the ones reserved for Christmas and milestone birthdays. Michelle! Mom rushes over, pulling me into a hug that smells of Chanel No. 5 in anticipation. She's wearing her good pearl earrings. You're just in time. Dad finishes pouring the fourth glass and raises his own. Perfect timing indeed. We were just about to toast. Toast? I accept the champagne, noting how Rachel can barely contain her excitement, practically vibrating as she clutches her glass. What's the occasion? Mom and Dad exchange pleased glances. To Rachel's future, Dad announces, lifting his glass higher. We clink glasses. The champagne is expensive, dry with hints of apple. I sip slowly, watching Rachel over the rim of my glass. I found it, Rachel blurts out, unable to contain herself any longer. My dream house in Oakwood Heights. That luxury townhouse development they've been building? The one with the rooftop gardens and the community pool? That's wonderful, I say, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. Oakwood Heights, where the starting price for those townhouses begins at $450,000. We put in the offer yesterday, Rachel continues, and they accepted this morning. Can you believe it? I'm going to be a homeowner. Dad wraps his arm around Rachel's shoulders. And we couldn't be prouder. We're helping with the down payment, Mom adds, patting Rachel's hand. From the Family Trust Fund. The Family Trust Fund. The room tilts slightly as the words register. My fingers tighten around the delicate stem of the champagne flute. The Family Trust Fund. I repeat, my voice hollow. You mean the account I've been contributing to for the past 10 years? A brief flicker of discomfort crosses Dad's face before his expression hardens. It's for family milestones, Michelle. That's always been the purpose. But 10 years ago, I was 22, fresh out of college with my first real job as an administrative assistant at Wilson and Brooks law firm. Mom and Dad had invited me to dinner, just the three of us. Dad spread papers across this very table. It's time you started thinking about your future, Michelle, he'd said. A security fund for your wedding someday, your first home. Add what you can each month, Mom had encouraged. We'll manage it, contribute too. When the time comes, you'll have a solid foundation. For a decade, I'd transferred $500 monthly from my modest salary. I'd skipped vacations, lived in a tiny apartment with temperamental plumbing, bought secondhand furniture, all while watching that account grow to nearly $60,000. My money, my sacrifice. Let me show you the pictures. Rachel pulls out her phone, swiping through images of granite countertops and cathedral ceilings. This is the main living area, and this is the master bedroom with the walk-in closet. I nod mechanically, my throat tight. It's beautiful. Michelle's always been the responsible one, Dad remarks to no one in particular. She'll understand. This is what family does. Mom gives my arm a dismissive pat. You don't even have a serious boyfriend yet, dear. Rachel's at a different stage of life. Rachel, who spent 3 years finding herself after college, while I worked 60-hour weeks. Rachel, whose car was a graduation gift while I took the bus for years to save money. Rachel, whose European vacation last summer was an educational investment according to our parents. Excuse me, I murmur, setting down my barely touched champagne. Bathroom. I lock the door behind me, hands trembling as I pull out my phone and open the banking app. The joint account my parents and I established appears on the screen. I tap it, heart pounding. Previous balance: $59,872.43. Current balance: $0. Last transaction: transfer to external account. Yesterday. My vision blurs. The bathroom spins. A decade of sacrifice emptied in a single transaction, without so much as a conversation. For my sister's dream house. I grip the edge of the sink, knuckles white against the porcelain. Through the door, I hear Rachel's excited chatter about paint colors and furniture delivery. Mom's delighted responses. Dad's proud rumble. In the mirror, I hardly recognize the woman staring back at me, the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who will understand, but I don't understand. And for the first time in my life, I'm not sure I want to. This isn't about money anymore. This is about value, worth, respect. I straighten my shoulders, taking one deep breath, then another. They've made their choice. Now it's time for me to make mine. The bathroom door swings open harder than I intended, the hinges protesting as it bangs against the wall. My parents and Rachel turn in unison, champagne glasses still raised in celebration. That was my money. My voice comes out steadier than I expect, the words hanging in the sudden silence. Mom laughs lightly, the sound brittle against the tension I've created. It's a family fund, dear. We've always made decisions as a family. Family decisions? The word tastes bitter. Did anyone consult me before emptying an account I've put $60,000 into? Rachel rolls her eyes dramatically. Don't be so dramatic, Michelle. It's not like you were using it. Dad sets his champagne down with deliberate precision. Let's all calm down, Michelle. Your sister needs this house. It's about the greater good of the family. The greater good? I repeat, my hands clenching into fists at my sides. Show me the account statements. Now isn't the time, Dad begins. Show me the statements. Each word drops like a stone. For the past 10 years. Dad and Mom exchange glances, a silent conversation passing between them. Finally, Dad sighs and pushes back from the table. If that's what it takes to end this nonsense, he mutters, heading toward his office. While he's gone, Mom attempts damage control. Michelle, I know you're disappointed, but Rachel has found her perfect home. Can't you be happy for your sister? Rachel nods eagerly. You can come over anytime. There's a spare bedroom you could stay in when you visit. The casual generosity of offering me access to a room purchased with my own money makes my stomach twist. Dad returns with a leather portfolio, hesitating before placing it on the table. I reach for it before he can change his mind, flipping it open to reveal neatly organized monthly statements. My fingers trace the columns of numbers, each deposit marked with my name. 10 years of sacrifice laid bare. I flip through month after month, searching for any contribution besides my own. There's nothing here from either of you, I say, looking up. Not $1. Dad shifts uncomfortably. We provided the investment strategy. The guidance. Guidance, I repeat, continuing to turn pages. A notation from 3 years ago catches my eye. What's this withdrawal? $20,000 in August 2022? Rachel suddenly becomes intensely interested in her champagne. Rachel needed help with graduate school, Mom says smoothly. Just a small loan. I flip more pages, finding other withdrawals. And this $12,000? And these 8 smaller withdrawals? Dad clears his throat. The down payment for Rachel's car, and some help when she was between jobs. Her European vacation to find herself? I ask, already knowing the answer. Mom reaches for my hand, which I pull away. Michelle, family supports each other. Your sister needed these things. And what about my needs? The question hangs between us. You've always been so capable, Dad says, as if it's a compliment. So independent. So independent because I had to be. I counter. Because every time I needed something, the answer was no. That's not fair, Mom says, her eyes welling with tears. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done? The question isn't angry anymore, just genuinely curious. We raised you, Dad says sternly. Put a roof over your head. Food on the table. The bare minimum parents are supposed to do, I reply. Family supports each other, Dad repeats, his jaw tightening. Your sister needs this. Start in life. And I don't? I close the portfolio, suddenly exhausted. I've supported this family by being the responsible one for 32 years. Rachel scoffs. twirling her champagne stem between manicured fingers. It's just money, Michelle. You can save more. It's not my fault you chose a boring career. The casual cruelty of her words cuts through the last threads of my patience. I stand, gathering my purse and the portfolio of statements. Where are you going? In. Mom asks, alarm rising in her voice. I made your favorite dessert, lemon squares. I've lost my appetite. Dad stands too, his authority a familiar weight in the room. Michelle, we expect you to be reasonable about this. The decision has been made. Yes, it has. I agree, turning toward the door. But not by you. This is ridiculous, Rachel says. You're ruining a perfectly good celebration over some money. I pause at the doorway, looking back at the three of them, Dad, stern and immovable, Mom anxiously twisting her napkin, Rachel annoyed at the interruption of her moment. This isn't about money, I tell them quietly. It's about trust. The door closes behind me with a soft click that sounds like the period at the end of a very long sentence. In my car, the portfolio sits heavy on the passenger seat, a decade of broken promises bound in leather. Street lamps flicker on as I drive away from my parents' house, illuminating a path I've never taken before. The responsible daughter has always returned, always forgiven, always understood. Not tonight. Tonight, I'm choosing a different road. That night at my apartment, the bank statements scatter across my coffee table like fallen leaves, numbers and dates that chronicle a decade of my sacrifices. My phone buzzes for the 7th time in an hour. I don't need to look to know it's them, Mom, Dad, or Rachel, each with their own flavor of manipulation. I let it vibrate against the wood until it falls silent. Then I open my laptop and check Rachel's Instagram. There at Island. A photo of her standing in front of the Oakwood Heights sales office, keys dangling from her manicured fingers. The caption reads, "Dreams come true when you have a generous family. Number blessed, number new homeowner, number family first." 27 likes already, 3 comments congratulating her on her hard work. My fingers hover over the keyboard. What would happen if I typed the truth? Congratulations on spending my $60,000. Hope the floors don't creak like my apartment that I've lived in for years while saving for my own home. The phone buzzes again. This time I look. Mom, Michelle, please call us. Your father is very upset. We need to talk about your behavior last night. My behavior. As if walking out of Sunday dinner after discovering they emptied my account was some kind of teenage rebellion. The next message arrives before I can set the phone down. Dad, your silence is disappointing but not surprising. The Robinson family handles matters privately. Consider the reputation you're risking with this childish tantrum. The family reputation. Always the family reputation. The third message is from Rachel. You could at least be happy for me. It's not like you were using that money anyway. I toss the phone onto the couch and press my palms against my eyes until I see stars. The voicemail notification chimes. Michelle, it's Mom. I know you're upset, sweetheart, but you're not seeing the bigger picture. Rachel is starting her life with Jordan. They need this home to build their future. You've always been our rock, our responsible one. Please call me back. Your father, Island. Her voice drops to a whisper. He's talking about removing you from the will if you pursue this. Please be reasonable. I delete the message without listening to the rest. 3 more voicemails follow the same pattern, sweet concern melting into veiled threats. When the knock comes at my door the next evening, I expect to find Mom or Dad standing in the hallway with stern expressions and rehearsed speeches about family duty. Instead, it's Sarah, clutching a bottle of wine and a folder. You sounded terrible on the phone, she says, pushing past me into the apartment. I brought reinforcements. Sarah has been my friend since college and now works as a paralegal at Westbrook & Associates. Her practical nature and legal knowledge have saved me from several bad decisions over the years. I accept the wine but eye the folder warily. What's that? Information. She pulls out a corkscrew from my kitchen drawer, already familiar with my apartment's layout. You said they emptied a joint account that you've been funding for 10 years, right? Without your knowledge or consent? The wine splashes into 2 glasses, deep red against clear crystal, the only fine thing I own. A graduation gift from Aunt Meredith. Yes. Almost $60,000. My voice sounds hollow even to my own ears. But it was a family account. That's what they keep saying. Sarah takes a long sip before answering. That's not just unfair, Beth. It might be illegal. Illegal? The word feels foreign in my mouth when applied to my parents, but their names were on the account too. Joint account doesn't automatically mean communal funds, especially if there's a paper trail showing you were the only one contributing. She slides the folder toward me. You should talk to Thomas Wilson at our firm. He specializes in financial disputes, including family matters. I thumb through the pages. She's brought printouts about financial misappropriation, joint account laws, and fiduciary responsibility. Terms that feel too cold and clinical to apply to Sunday dinners in childhood bedrooms. I can't sue my family, Sarah. You can't let them steal from you either. The word steal lands like a slap. I've been avoiding that term even in my thoughts. 2 days later, I sit across from Thomas Wilson in his office. He reminds me of my grandfather, silver-haired with kind eyes that harden when I show him my bank statements and the account agreement. This isn't a family trust, Miss Robinson, he says, removing his reading glasses. This is your money, plain and simple. They're my parents, I whisper, as if that explains everything. Yes, he agrees, leaning back in his chair, which makes this betrayal of trust even more concerning. I stare at my hands, at the ink stains on my right index finger from grading papers. I need to think about this. After work the next day, I linger in my empty classroom. The third-grade artwork lines the walls, bright colors and hopeful scenes. I straighten Lily's drawing of a butterfly, Xavier's crayon rendering of his family, Emma's careful depiction of the solar system. 5 years teaching at Franklin Elementary. 5 years of watching children grow and learn while my own life remained suspended in amber. Always the responsible one. Always putting others first. I sit at my desk, surrounded by the remnants of today's lesson on simple machines. How many better job offers have I turned down to stay in this district, close to my parents' home? The teaching position in Colorado with the outdoor education program, the curriculum development role in Chicago, and not just career opportunities. The trip to Europe I canceled when Mom needed help after her gallbladder surgery that didn't stop her from attending Rachel's graduation ceremony 2 weeks later. The relationship with Daniel that ended because Dad thought his contractor business wasn't ambitious enough for a Robinson daughter. Year after year of small sacrifices that built an invisible cage around my life. A drawing on my desk catches my eye, Jamie's work from our lesson on integrity last month. A stick figure stands tall while others huddle in the background. Miss Robinson taught me to stand up for myself, the careful lettering reads. My phone rings, startling me. Unknown number. Michelle? It's Aunt Meredith. My father's sister, the family outlier who moved to Arizona after a falling out years ago. Aunt Meredith? How did you? Sarah called me. We've kept in touch over the years. Of course they have. The two strong-willed women always got along. I heard what Robert and Patricia did. She continues, her voice carrying the desert's dry warmth even through the phone. With your savings. It's complicated. I start, the default defense mechanism engaging automatically. No, it's not. She cuts in. They did the same thing to me with Grandma's jewelry. The pieces she specifically left to me in her will. Your father convinced me they needed to stay in the main family line. I let it go because I thought that's what family did. My breath catches. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. They've built a wall of silence around their behavior for decades. Your grandfather did it to your father. Your father learned it, and perfected it. And now they're doing it to you. Her voice softens. Don't let them do this to you, Michelle. This pattern has existed for generations in this family. I look up at Jamie's drawing again, the small figure standing tall. This stops with me, I say, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. Good girl. I can hear the smile in Aunt Meredith's voice. Now, here's what you're going to do. I listen as she outlines the steps I need to take. Practical, legal, emotional. By the time we hang up, the sun has set outside my classroom window, but for the first time since Sunday dinner, I feel a glimmer of light inside me. This stops with me. The next day, the law office of Thomas Wilson reminds me of my grandfather's study, all dark wood panels and leather-bound books. Afternoon light filters through Venetian blinds, casting golden stripes across the polished conference table where my bank statements lie in neat chronological order. 10 years, Thomas says, adjusting his silver-rimmed glasses. Every month, without fail. I nod, watching his weathered hands move methodically through the documents. Thomas Wilson has been practicing law since before I was born. His reputation for fairness preceded him, the reason I chose him over the younger associates at my own firm. And not a single contribution from your parents? He continues, voice steady but tinged with indignation, despite their verbal assurances. They managed the account, I say, the words hollow even to my own ears. Thomas looks up, blue eyes sharp with 40 years of legal experience. They managed to empty it, Miss Robinson, without your knowledge or consent. My stomach tightens. Hearing it stated so plainly makes the betrayal even more stark. The law is clear here, Thomas says, resting his hands on the scattered papers. This is financial misappropriation. Your options include a civil suit or formal fraud charges. The word fraud lands like a stone in still water. Criminal charges against my own parents. Against Rachel. I don't want to destroy my family, I say, straightening my shoulders. I just want what's right. Thomas nods, understanding tempering his professional detachment. Then we begin with certified letters, one to the bank, formally disputing the transaction. Another to your parents, outlining the legal standing of your claim. He slides 2 envelopes across the table. I sign each letter, my signature more confident than I feel. Fair warning, Thomas says as his assistant takes the envelopes. People rarely respond well when called to account. 4 days later, I discovered just how right he island Aunt Meredith's dining room smells of pot roast and tension. What began as a casual family dinner has revealed itself as an ambush. Uncle Frank sits at the head of the table, his typical jovial demeanor replaced by stern disappointment. You're breaking your mother's heart, he says, pointing his fork at me. She hasn't slept since those legal papers arrived. I take a measured sip of water. I'm sorry to hear that. Cousin William leans forward, his college quarterback confidence undiminished by middle age. Rachel has always had big dreams, Michelle. You're just a teacher. The word just hangs in the air, loaded with generations of familial expectations. I've spent my life helping children achieve their dreams. I reply, folding my napkin neatly, including paying for 3 of my students' college application fees last year out of my own pocket. Aunt Meredith's eyes widen slightly. She didn't know about that. Your sister needs that money for her future, Uncle Frank insists. Her house, her wedding, she has plans. So did I say simply. The table falls silent. For perhaps the first time, they're actually hearing me. My phone buzzes in my purse. I excuse myself to the kitchen, grateful for the momentary escape. It's a notification from Instagram. Rachel has tagged me in a post. The photo shows Rachel and her boyfriend standing before a sold sign, his arm around her waist, her left hand prominently displaying a diamond ring. The caption reads, "She said yes, celebrating our engagement and our new home. Blessed. New chapter." End quote. Comments flood the post. Congratulations pouring in for the golden child. Friends and family alike celebrating Rachel's charmed life. My fingers hover over the screen. I could ignore it, walk away. But something inside me, perhaps the same steel that made me save month after month, while Rachel spent freely, refuses to remain silent. I type a single, measured comment. Congratulations on your engagement. I hope your home brings you as much joy as my decade of savings brought me. I hit send before I can reconsider, then return to the dining room, just as my phone begins buzzing continuously with notifications. 3 days later, the first real victory arrives in my email inbox. A formal letter from the bank. Accounts frozen pending investigation into disputed transactions. My father calls within the hour, his voice thundering through the speaker. What have you done? Exactly what you taught me, I answer, surprising myself with my calm. Protecting what's mine. He launches into a lecture about family loyalty and ungrateful children, his voice rising with each sentence. I let him finish. Is that all? I ask when he finally pauses for breath. He hangs up without another word. The next afternoon, I'm arranging my 3rd grader's science projects when a shadow falls across my classroom door. My mother stands there, perfectly coiffed as always, looking oddly out of place among the colorful alphabet charts and student artwork. We need to talk, she says, closing the door behind her. We're family. Can't we handle this privately? I continue straightening the display, aligning Mason's volcano with Sophia's solar system model. We could have, I say, finally turning to face her. 10 years ago, or last month, or even at dinner, but not anymore. She steps closer, voice dropping to a whisper, though no one else is around. Do you know what this is doing to your father? To Rachel's wedding plans? I think of decade-old promises. Of bus rides in the rain while Rachel drove her graduation gift car. Of my tiny apartment with its temperamental plumbing. Yes, I say, meeting her gaze directly. I know exactly what this is doing. The same thing you've been doing to me for years. For the first time in my life, my mother looks at me. Really looks at me. And I wonder if she's finally seeing the woman I've become rather than the compliant daughter she expected me to remain. A week later, the walnut conference table gleams under recessed lighting as I take my seat beside Thomas Wilson. His silver hair catches the light, and the reassuring weight of his legal experience settles around me like armor. Across from us sit my parents and Rachel, a perfect tableau of familial disappointment. Dad's jaw works back and forth. He hasn't looked directly at me since entering the room. Mom's hands twist a tissue into shreds, her pearl bracelet clicking against the table with each nervous movement. Rachel stares at her phone, scrolling through pictures of granite countertops and walk-in closets she now realizes might slip through her fingers. Let's begin, Thomas says, his voice carrying the quiet authority of 40 years in law. He places a leather portfolio on the table and opens it with deliberate care. Dad's hand slams down. This is ridiculous. We're family, not adversaries. Michelle, I raised you better than this. Did you? The words slip out before I can stop them, quiet but razor sharp. Mom dabs at dry eyes. You're tearing this family apart over money. Money, after everything we've done for you. Thomas clears his throat. Mrs. Robinson, with respect, let's focus on the facts. He slides printed bank statements across the polished surface. These records show a decade of monthly deposits from Michelle's account, $500 each month for 10 years. Rachel finally looks up, color draining from her face as she sees the columns of numbers. Plus, Thomas continues, statements showing zero contributions from Robert or Ellen Robinson throughout this period. Dad's face reddens. We managed the account. That's a contribution. Mismanaged would be more accurate, Thomas replies, his tone unchanged. Under state law, this constitutes financial misappropriation, the transfer of funds without proper authorization. We didn't need authorization, Dad interrupts. It's a family fund. That's not what the paperwork indicates, Thomas says, tapping another document. The account was established in Michelle's name with you as co-signatories, not as a discretionary family trust. Mom leans toward Dad, whispering urgently. His expression shifts from defiance to calculation. Rachel pushes back from the table. You promised me that house. I've already told everyone. I've already picked out furniture. Rachel, Mom says, her tone sharp for the first time. No. Rachel's voice rises. This is humiliating. What am I supposed to tell Jason? That we can't afford the house because my sister is being selfish? Selfish? The word hangs in the air between us. I lived in an apartment with broken heating for 3 winters to save that money. Dad and Mom exchange glances. Some silent communication passes between them, the language of a 35-year marriage that's always excluded me. Dad straightens his tie and leans forward. Let's be reasonable. Michelle, we're willing to compromise. We'll split the money 3 ways fair for everyone. Thomas starts to speak, but I touch his arm. This moment belongs to me. No. The single syllable falls like a stone in still water. It was never yours to split. Dad's face hardens. Is this how you repay us for everything? Your mother and I gave you every advantage. Did you? I place my palms flat on the table. You gave Rachel a car for graduation. I took the bus for 2 years. You paid for Rachel's master's degree. I worked full-time while studying. You funded her finding herself trip to Europe. I haven't had a vacation in 6 years. Mom flinches. And when I trusted you, when I believed you were helping secure my future, you emptied my account without a word. Thomas slides a document forward. We've prepared a settlement agreement, full restoration of Michelle's funds, with 5% interest compounded annually. This is quite generous, considering we could pursue damages. Dad stares at the paper as if it might bite him. You would sue your own parents? I would protect what's mine, I answer, just like you taught me. The room falls silent except for the soft whir of the air conditioning. Rachel's phone pings with a notification, but she doesn't check it. Mom whispers something to Dad. He nods curtly, then reaches for the pen Thomas offers. His hand trembles slightly as he signs his name, the black ink a stark contrast against the white page. Mom signs next, her signature flowing and elegant, never once raising her eyes to meet mine. Rachel stands abruptly, chair scraping against hardwood. This is so typical. Perfect Michelle gets her way again. I've already told everyone about the house. That's not my problem, I say, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Family helps family, Mom says weakly. That's what we've always believed. This was never about the money. I take the signed agreement Thomas passes to me. It was about respect. Rachel storms out, the door closing with a heavy thud behind her. Mom follows after giving me one last disappointed look. Dad lingers, his authority diminished in the wake of legal consequences. I hope you're satisfied, he says finally. I study his face, the features I've always searched for in my own reflection. I'm not satisfied, Dad. I'm just finally standing up for myself. He leaves without another word. Thomas gathers his documents, tucking them neatly into his briefcase. The bank will process the transfer by tomorrow afternoon. Would you like me to have them prepare a cashier's check? Yes, I say, feeling lighter than I have in years. Thank you. The next day, I hold the check in my hands. $62,865.17. 10 years of my life quantified in dollars and cents. I drive to Westside Elementary where I've taught third grade for 6 years. In the administrative office, I write a check for $5,000 to the school's scholarship fund. Principal Alvarez asks what prompted such generosity. An inheritance, I say. From myself. That afternoon, a realtor named Janet shows me through a small cottage on Maple Street. It's nothing like Rachel's luxury townhouse, just 2 bedrooms with worn hardwood floors and a kitchen that needs updating. But the backyard has an ancient oak tree, and sunshine streams through windows that face east. It's quiet, Janet says apologetically. Some people prefer more activity. I walk through empty rooms, my footsteps echoing against bare walls. In each space, I see possibilities unfolding: bookshelves filled with novels, a comfortable sofa for Sunday mornings, a dining table where friends will gather. For the first time, I imagine a future entirely of my own design. That evening, I call Aunt Meredith. When she answers, I can hear her television in the background, her favorite game show. I found my home, I tell her. Your home or a house? She asks, always precise with language. I smile into the phone. Both. The morning sun warms my back as I kneel in the freshly tilled soil, planting purple coneflowers along the stone path. 1 year has transformed this overgrown yard into something alive with possibility. Aunt Meredith works beside me, her gardening gloves caked with earth, her silver hair caught in the spring breeze. Your grandmother would approve, she says, patting the soil around a sturdy seedling. She always said gardens are where we plant our hopes. I smile, remembering the woman who taught me patience long before I understood its value. I think I finally understand what she meant. My cottage stands behind us, no longer the neglected foreclosure I purchased with my reclaimed savings. The pale yellow paint brightens the weathered siding, and window boxes burst with geraniums. It's modest, nothing like Rachel's luxury townhouse, but entirely mine. Inside, photographs line the mantel above the small fireplace. My 5th grade class performing their science play. Sarah and me hiking in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Aunt Meredith and I at the closing, holding up my house keys. No recent family portraits grace these walls, an absence that occasionally aches but no longer defines me. Hand me that watering can, would you? Aunt Meredith asks, interrupting my thoughts. As I pass it to her, movement at the garden gate catches my eye. My mother stands there, uncertainty written across her face. She clutches her purse with both hands, looking smaller somehow, diminished without my father beside her. Michelle, she says, using my childhood nickname for the first time since our confrontation. Your flowers are beautiful. Aunt Meredith glances between us, then tactfully murmurs something about checking on her strawberry tarts in the oven. She squeezes my shoulder as she passes, a silent reassurance. Thank you, I reply, rising slowly, brushing soil from my jeans. Would you like to come in? Mother hesitates at the threshold, as if crossing into my space requires permission she's unsure she deserves. I didn't bring anything. I should have brought something. It's all right. She takes 3 careful steps into the garden, then stops. I've been thinking about what happened. What we did. Her voice wavers. I didn't see what we were doing to you. Not really. I told myself we were just being practical. The admission hangs between us, inadequate, yet monumental. A year ago, I would have demanded more, a complete accounting of every inequity. Now, I recognize the courage this small acknowledgement requires. I'm glad you see it now, I say simply. She nods, blinking rapidly. Your father still doesn't understand. He says you abandoned the family. I didn't abandon anyone. I just stopped abandoning myself. A robin lands on the bird bath, splashing briefly before taking flight again. We both watch it go. Would you like some tea? I offer. It's not forgiveness, not yet, but it's an opening, a small crack in the wall between us. Later that evening, my small dining table holds a gathering unlike any my family ever hosted. Aunt Meredith passes a platter of roasted vegetables to Sarah, while Thomas Wilson, my silver-haired attorney, tells a story that has everyone laughing. My colleague Jack raises his glass in a spontaneous toast. To building our own definitions of family, he announces. As twilight deepens, I settle onto my porch swing with my journal. The evening breeze carries the scent of lilacs, as I write the simple truth that took 32 years to discover. The most valuable thing I've gained isn't this house. It's the knowledge that I matter too. I look up as the last light fades, watching fireflies begin their evening dance above my garden. For the first time in my life, I am perfectly at peace in my own space. I stand in the center of our living room trying to smile as my friends sing Happy Birthday for the 18th time in my life. The grocery store sheet cake sits on our coffee table, its plastic container discarded beside it. Someone probably mom-scrawled Happy Birthday Josie across the top in hasty blue icing that's already starting to bleed into the white frosting beneath. Make a wish, says Melissa, my friend since 3rd grade. I lean forward, staring at the 18 flickering candles. Behind me, Dad checks his watch again. He's done it 4 times in the last 20 minutes. The ancient Bluetooth speaker in the corner crackles as it plays music no one requested, barely audible over the uncomfortable silence filling our modest living room. I close my eyes and blow. The candles don't all go out on the first try. Ooh, that means your wish won't come true, jokes Tyler, earning him an elbow from Melissa. If they only knew what I'd wished for. Recognition. Acknowledgement. Something, anything to make me feel like I matter in this house. From her seat in the corner, Grandma Margaret watches with narrowed eyes, her tea growing cold in her hands. She hasn't smiled once since Mom brought out the cake. She sees everything, my grandmother. Always has. My mind flashes back 4 years, to Sloane's 18th birthday. I was 14 then, standing in awe as 50 guests filled our backyard. Dad had hired a professional DJ. Mom spent 3 days crafting Sloane's favorite chocolate mousse cake. And when everyone gathered around, my parents had revealed their gift, a brand new Ford Escape with a giant red bow on the hood. Sloane had screamed with joy, hugging our parents as everyone applauded. Today, 5 friends sit awkwardly on our secondhand furniture. No DJ, no yard decorations, just a store-bought cake and the weight of comparison hanging heavy in the air. Time for presents, Mom announces with the practiced smile she reserves for situations she wants to rush through. She hands me a small envelope with my name written on it. I open it slowly, knowing already what little it contains. A gift card, $25 to the local bookstore. Thanks, I say, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. My friends exchange glances. They know too. Melissa brought me a limited edition vinyl record she saved up for months to buy. Even Tyler, who works part-time at his dad's garage, gave me concert tickets. But from my parents? A gift card smaller than what they give my teachers at Christmas. The silence stretches uncomfortably until I can't bear it anymore. Why is everything different for me? The words tumble out before I can stop them, my voice barely above a whisper but trembling with the force of years of unanswered questions. Dad's hand makes a dismissive wave. Sloane earned her celebration. Academic scholarship, captain of the volleyball team. You know how it was. We do what we can afford at the time, Mom adds, her practiced smile faltering at the edges. Things were different then. But they weren't. Dad's accounting firm has been successful for years. Mom's interior design business expanded last summer. The only thing different is me. My friends shift in their seats, suddenly fascinated by their plates of cake. The weight of unspoken truths fills the room, suffocating as summer heat. Then comes the sound of Grandma Margaret's teacup clattering loudly against its saucer. After all these years, she says, rising slowly from her chair, you're still punishing her for being born a girl. The room freezes. Melissa's fork stops halfway to her mouth. Tyler stares, wide-eyed. Mom, My mother's voice is sharp, warning. Not now. But those 4 words, not now, confirm everything in Grandma's accusation. Dad's face flushes crimson. Margaret, you have no right to. No right? Grandma steps forward, pointing a finger that shakes not with age but with fury. I watched you dress that baby in blue for months. Introduce her as Joseph to everyone you met. Until I finally put my foot down. The floor seems to tilt beneath me. Joseph? My vision tunnels as fragments of memory click into place the old baby photos with me in blue clothes. My parents' discomfort whenever relatives mention my infancy. Their persistent disappointment when I chose dance over sports. The push toward short haircuts until I finally refused at 13. Is that true? I whisper, looking between my parents. Their silence answers more clearly than words ever could. Mom finally speaks. Josie, it wasn't like that. We were just adjusting. For 18 years? Grandma challenges. Images flash through my mind, baby Josie in tiny blue overalls. My mother introducing her infant to neighbors as Joseph. Grandma Margaret's intervention when I was 6 months old. The reluctant transition to calling me Josie instead. Years of subtle neglect captured in birthday parties, Christmas mornings, school events where my parents arrived late or not at all. My friends begin gathering their things, squeezing my hand as they make awkward exits. Tyler whispers, "Call me later," as he slips out the door. Through the picture window, I see Uncle Robert's truck pulling into our driveway. Grandma must have texted him. Always my protectors, those two. My phone buzzes. Sloan calling from college, probably for the obligatory birthday wishes. She'll know something's wrong the moment I answer. I step away from my parents, cake untouched, heart splintering. In my bedroom, I lock the door and sink to the floor, the weight of 18 years of subtle rejection crushing down on me. So that's why nothing I do is ever enough, I whisper to the empty room. 2 weeks crawl by after my birthday disaster. I've been avoiding my parents, working extra shifts at the bookstore, catching rides with Melissa, or taking the bus 13 miles each way. The silence in our house hangs thick as winter fog. I'm arranging books on the fantasy shelf when my phone buzzes. Mom's text reads, "Come straight home after work. We have something for you. Asterisk." My stomach tightens. The last something they had for me was a $25 gift card. Uncle Robert offered to pick me up, but I text him back. Not today. Parents want me home. Asterisk. His response is immediate. Call if you need me. Asterisk. When I arrive home, both my parents stand in the driveway, Dad jingling a set of keys in his hand, Mom wearing her church social smile. Behind them sits a silver Chevy Malibu, suspiciously clean, its paint gleaming in the afternoon sun. "What's this?" I ask, keeping my distance. Dad extends the keys toward me. "We wanted to make things right. Just like Sloan got at her age," Mom adds, her voice tight around the edges. My chest flutters with cautious hope. Could they actually be seeing me? After 18 years of looking past me, could one confrontation have changed everything? "It's yours," Dad says. "Got it for $850 online. Great deal." $850. The number sinks in my stomach like a stone. Sloane's Ford Escape cost nearly $20,000. "We'll cover insurance for 4 months," Mom says, hands clasped at her waist. Just like with Sloan. Grandma Margaret appears on the porch, narrowing her eyes at the too shiny car. She circles it slowly, running a finger along the driver's door, examining it like she's inspecting fruit at the market. "Mighty clean for something that cheap," she mutters. "But I need this car. The bookstore is 13 miles away and winter's coming. The bus schedule was just cut back, and Melissa can't always drive me." "Thank you," I say, accepting the keys. "This helps a lot." Dad nods once, mission accomplished. Don't expect anything for Christmas. This was a big expense. $850. A big expense. For them? For the next month, the Malibu serves its purpose. The radio works. The heater blows warm. I make my shifts on time. Each mile feels like independence, even in this bargain basement chariot. Until Thursday afternoon on the interstate. I'm cruising in the middle lane when the temperature gauge creeps from normal to hot in the space of 3 minutes. The steering wheel vibrates under my hands. A new warning light flashes on the dashboard. No, I whisper, searching for the next exit. There isn't one for miles. White smoke begins billowing from under the hood, thin at first, then thickening until it obscures my windshield. Cars honk as they swerve around me. The engine makes a terrible knocking sound. I ease onto the narrow shoulder, heart hammering against my ribs, semis thundering past mere feet away, rocking my car with each pass. When I turn the key off, the engine makes an ominous gurgling sound before dying. With shaking fingers, I call Uncle Robert. "I'm on my way," he says immediately. "Don't get out of the car, too dangerous there." 90 minutes later, Uncle Robert's truck pulls up behind me, hazard lights flashing. His friend Mike from the auto shop follows in a tow truck. Mike barely glances under the hood before shaking his head. Blown head gasket, classic case. At the shop, Mike points to a crusty residue around the radiator cap. "See this? Temporary sealant." And here, he gestures to dried blue liquid trailing down the engine block. More stop, leak. This engine was patched up just enough to sell it, probably knew it wouldn't last 2 months. Uncle Robert's face darkens with each word. "How much to fix it?" I ask. Mike's expression says it all. $2,200 minimum, and even then, no guarantees. $2,200. More than I make in 2 months at the bookstore. That night, I face my parents across the kitchen table, the repair estimate between us. The mechanic says it was rigged to run just long enough to sell. I explain, voice trembling, not with tears but rising anger. "Did you have it inspected before buying it?" Dad doesn't look up from his phone. "For $800? Of course not." "You could have been killed," Uncle Robert says from behind me. Dad finally looks up, eyes cold. "That's karma for embarrassing us at your party." The words hit me like a physical blow. My mother busies herself at the sink, scrubbing a already clean pot, refusing to make eye contact. "You never wanted me to succeed," I whisper, the truth dawning bright and terrible. "Oh, here we go with the dramatics," Dad says, standing to leave. But Grandma Margaret storms through the front door, face flushed with fury. "You could have killed her. On a highway with trucks going 70 miles an hour. Uncle Robert pulls up screenshots on his phone. "Found the listing online. Runs great, minor cosmetic issues only. But look at the seller's other listings. 3 more cars just like this one, all suspiciously cheap, all recently detailed." Within an hour, our living room fills with extended family. Aunt Paula and Uncle Stephen stand beside me. Cousin Beth puts her arm around my shoulders. Uncle Robert shows everyone the screenshots, explains the mechanic's findings. My parents retreat upstairs, closing their bedroom door, claiming to be the victims of a family mutiny. 1 week later, Uncle Robert and Grandma Margaret pull into our driveway with a blue Honda Fit. Not new, but clean in a way that speaks of care rather than concealment. "This car has been thoroughly inspected and serviced," Uncle Robert says, handing me a folder of maintenance records and a clear title. "Mike put it on the lift himself. New brakes, fresh oil, good for another 100,000 miles. We put it in your name," Grandma adds. "Nobody can take it from you." Through the living room window, I see my parents watching, neither coming outside to help nor acknowledging the family members providing what they wouldn't. I run my fingers over the title with my name printed on it. For the first time, I feel something beyond the hurt and anger, the steady presence of advocates in my corner. People who see me clearly and act accordingly. "Thank you," I say, and the words feel insufficient for the weight they carry. 6 months pass like a blur. Winter thaws into a hesitant spring, and I find myself at our kitchen table surrounded by envelopes bearing university letterheads. My hands shake slightly as I slide my thumb under the flap of the largest Wanami top choice school. Grandma Margaret sits across from me, her reading glasses perched on her nose, a mug of chamomile tea warming her hands. "Whatever it says, I'm proud of you." The envelope tears jaggedly, revealing the crisp letterhead of Westlake University. My eyes dart across the page, searching for the words that will determine my future. "Dear Josephine Trevelyan, we are pleased to." I can't finish reading aloud. The words blur as tears fill my eyes. "What is it, honey?" Grandma leans forward, concern etching deeper lines into her weathered face. 60%, I whisper, blinking rapidly. "Academic scholarship, 60%. Grandma's hand flies to her mouth. "Oh, my stars." I slide the letter across the table. Grandma's fingers tremble as she lifts it, eyes widening as she reads. A single tear tracks down her cheek, catching in the crease beside her mouth. "This is..." She removes her glasses, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "This is extraordinary, Josie." The kitchen door swings open. Mom breezes in with grocery bags, hair freshly highlighted, not a strand out of place despite the spring drizzle outside. "Any mail today?" she asks casually, glancing at the pile of envelopes. Grandma Margaret slides the letter back toward me, her eyes holding mine in silent support. "Just college stuff," I say, watching Mom's face. She sets the bags on the counter, movements practiced and efficient. "Anything important?" I hold up Westlake's letter. "I got in, with a scholarship." "That's nice, dear." Her tone is dismissive until she glances at the letter. She freezes, eyes narrowing on the percentage figure highlighted in bold. The plastic grocery bag slips from her fingers, landing with a soft thud on the linoleum. 60%? Her voice pitches higher. There must be some mistake. "No mistake. I can't keep the edge from my voice. They want me." Mom snatches the letter, scanning it rapidly. Her face cycles through disbelief, confusion, and something darker I can't quite name. Dad's heavy footsteps sound in the hallway. He enters, briefcase in hand, already loosening his tie. "Mail's here," Mom announces, voice tight. She thrusts the letter at him. "Josie got a scholarship." Dad scans the page, eyebrows lifting fractionally. "Well, that's unexpected." His voice carries the same tone he uses when a client makes an accounting error he needs to correct. "Sloan only got 30% at her school," Mom adds quickly. She busies herself with the groceries, avoiding my eyes. And that was with volleyball. The comparison lands like a slap. I bite my tongue until I taste copper. Grandma doesn't bother hiding her disgust. "For heaven's sake, Caroline, your daughter just received an incredible opportunity. Is that really all you have to say?" The doorbell rings before Mom can respond. Uncle Robert stands on the porch, a bottle of champagne in one hand and a bouquet of yellow roses in the other. I hear congratulations are in order. His grin falters as he reads the tension in the room. Mom's phone chirps. She glances at it, relief washing over her face. "Book club emergency. I have to go." She grabs her purse, never looking directly at me. "We'll talk about this later." Dad checks his watch. "I have a client call in 5 minutes. Good job, Josie." He retreats to his home office, door clicking shut behind him. Uncle Robert watches them go, then turns to me with a wink. "More champagne for us, then." Later that evening, I stand beside Grandma Margaret in her kitchen, drying dishes as she washes them. The celebration with Uncle Robert left me lighter than I've felt in months, but questions still gnaw at me, sharper after my parents' reactions. "Grandma," I say, setting down a plate carefully, "was I even wanted?" Her hands go still in the soapy water. She rinses them slowly, deliberate in her movements as she sets down the dish towel. Her eyes, faded blue but still sharp, meet mine. "It's time you knew everything, sweetheart." We move to her small living room with its familiar scent of lavender sachets and old books. Uncle Robert joins us, settling into the worn armchair by the window. Sloan answers our video call on the first ring, her dorm room visible in the background. "What's going on?" Sloan asks, face tight with concern. Grandma takes a deep breath. "Your parents had very specific expectations when Caroline got pregnant with Josie. After having you, they wanted a son." The room seems to tilt beneath me. "What?" "Your mother dressed you in blue for months after you were born," Grandma continues. "She called you Joseph, introduced you that way to everyone." Uncle Robert nods grimly. "Until Mom finally put her foot down when you were about 6 months old. I knew something was off, but they never told me this," Sloan says, her voice small on the screen. Grandma rises and retrieves a shoebox from her closet. Inside are photos I've never seen: a baby in blue overalls, tiny baseball caps, miniature sneakers with sports logos. "That's me?" I whisper, touching the glossy surface of a photo showing my mother holding an infant in a blue onesie with "Daddy's little slugger" embroidered across the chest. "Until you were about 7 months old," Grandma confirms. "When I finally convinced them this wasn't healthy for anyone, they reluctantly started calling you Josie." Uncle Robert reaches for a faded envelope. "I've kept these emails from when you were little. Your dad was furious when your preschool teacher suggested you might have artistic talent rather than athletic ability. You wore my hand, me downs until you were 4. Sloan adds softly. "Even though they could afford new things, I remember Mom complaining that all my old clothes were too girly for you." The pieces of my life rearrange themselves, creating a picture that finally makes sense. Tears burn in my eyes, but then unexpectedly laughter bubbles up from somewhere deep inside me. At least now it makes sense, I say, wiping my eyes. All these years I thought I wasn't good enough. Turns out I just wasn't the right gender. Sloane's laugh mingles with mine, though tears shine in her eyes too. I tried to protect you. I didn't know how to tell you. Their disappointment isn't my burden to carry anymore. I say, the words forming a revelation as I speak them. Uncle Robert leans forward, face serious. Now, about that scholarship, let's talk strategy. We gather around Grandma's dining table, university brochures spread before us. The school sits 1,200 miles away, a distance that suddenly feels necessary rather than daunting. I can help with living expenses, Uncle Robert says, making notes on a legal pad. And I've got connections at an accounting firm near campus for part-time work. Sloane taps her screen. I'll visit you instead of going home for breaks next year. We're deep in planning when my phone buzzes. My parents, suddenly interested now that others are involved. We should discuss your college plans, Mom's text reads. Dad and I have some thoughts. 3 days later, they corner me in the kitchen. Leaving the state seems dramatic. Mom says, stirring her coffee. There are perfectly good schools here. Dad nods. Besides, who's going to help your mother around the house? I keep my voice neutral. I've made my decision. It's like you're abandoning your family, Mom says, voice dripping with passive-aggressive sweetness. Dad leans against the counter. You know, your academic success really reflects the values we instilled in you. The audacity nearly takes my breath away. The values Grandma Margaret instilled in me, I correct him. We're willing to help with tuition, Mom offers suddenly. If you stay in state, of course, and maintain the right GPA, and come home weekends. I think of all the strings that have held me back, tangled around me since birth. No thank you, I say quietly, meeting her eyes directly for the first time in months. I've got this covered. Their matching expressions of shock almost make me laugh. They never expected me to refuse. They never expected me to know my worth. But I do now. And I'm not looking back. Day before moving, I fold the last of my t-shirts and place them in the duffel bag splayed open on my bed. My childhood room looks strange now, walls bare where posters once hung, shelves empty of books and trinkets. The space feels hollow, like it never really belonged to me in the first place. From the hallway, Mom hovers in the doorway for the third time this hour. Don't forget to pack a raincoat. The forecast says thunderstorms next week. Already packed, I answer without looking up. She lingers, fingers tapping against the doorframe. And you've got enough money for emergencies? The ATM fees on campus are ridiculous. Uncle Robert handled that yesterday, setting up a new account at a bank with branches near campus. But I just nod, not sharing this information. I'm covered. Through the wall, I hear Dad on the phone, his voice rising and falling as he tells someone about my daughter heading off to college. The pride in his voice makes me want to laugh. Where was that pride last week when he warned me I'd probably flunk out by Christmas? Grandma Margaret appears behind Mom carrying a small box. Found these in my attic. Thought you might want them. She slips past Mom and sets the box on my bed, photo albums from my dance recitals that my parents never bothered to attend. Thanks, Grandma. Our eyes meet, a silent understanding passing between us. Mom steps forward. I could have given her those. I have all her recital programs somewhere. Do you? Grandma raises an eyebrow. Funny, I don't recall you attending many of them. Mom's face flushes. She retreats down the hallway, calling over her shoulder. I'm making sandwiches for the road. When she's gone, I whisper, You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Grandma tucks a strand of hair behind my ear. Some truths need saying, even at this late hour. The doorbell rings. Through my window, I spot Uncle Robert's SUV parked behind Sloane's compact car. My heart leaps. Sloane wasn't supposed to arrive until tomorrow. I rush downstairs to find my sister standing in the foyer, hair shorter than when I last saw her, eyes bright with mischief. Surprise! She throws her arms around me. You think I'd miss moving my little sister to college? Dad emerges from his office, face tight with confusion. Sloane? We weren't expecting you until tomorrow. Plans changed. She shrugs, not offering further explanation. Where's Mom? Kitchen, I say, unable to stop smiling. That night, after the packing is mostly done, and our parents have retreated to their bedroom, Sloane and I sit cross-legged on my mattress, now stripped of sheets and blankets. Remember when we used to build forts in here? Sloane asks, running her hand over the bare mattress. You always made me be the prisoner while you were the guard. She laughs softly. Yeah, I was a bossy kid. The moonlight slants through my window, casting half her face in shadow. She looks older suddenly, tired around the eyes. Sloane? I hesitate. Were they different with you, better? She snorts. Better? Number. Just different. She looks down at her hands. Being the favorite wasn't a gift, Josie. It was a cage. What do you mean? Every achievement had to be bigger than the last. Every decision scrutinized to make sure I was living up to their expectations. She meets my eyes. At least they left you alone enough to figure out who you actually are. I never thought of it that way. But they gave you everything. Material things, sure, but they were always watching, always pushing. They had my whole life mapped out. She looks around the nearly empty room. You're escaping. I'm still trying to. We talk until sunrise, truths flowing between us that had been dammed up for years. For the first time, I see my sister not as the golden child, but as another casualty of our parents' warped love. Morning arrives with a flurry of activity. Uncle Robert and Grandma load the last boxes into the SUV while Mom fusses with a cooler of snacks nobody asked for. Dad stands awkwardly in the driveway, jangling his keys. Call when you get there. And remember what I said about that economics professor. His grading curve is brutal. The neighbors watch from their porches as my parents make a show of teary hugs and last-minute advice. For their audience, they play the part of devoted parents sending their daughter off to college. I give each a brief, appropriate hug. To Dad, I say nothing. To Mom, I whisper close to her ear, I forgive you, but I won't forget. Her body stiffens against mine. Then I'm in the SUV, Sloane beside me, Grandma and Uncle Robert in front. As we pull away, I watch my childhood home shrink in the rearview mirror. With each mile marker, something lifts from my shoulders, a weight I've carried so long I forgot it was there. You know, Sloane says quietly, I'm thinking of transferring, maybe somewhere on the West Coast. Grandma chuckles from the front seat. My mother nearly disowned me when I moved 50 miles away from home, said I was abandoning the family. What did you do, I ask. Live my life anyway. She turns, eyes crinkling. Some patterns need breaking, sweet girl. By afternoon, we reach campus. My dorm room is tiny but entirely Menino history here. No comparison. No constant evaluation. That night, after everyone leaves, I call Grandma instead of my parents. As we talk, I stare out the window at students crossing the quad, laughing, living. For the first time in 18 years, I take a full breath. 3 months later, the email sits open on my laptop screen. 3 sentences, carefully composed over 2 hours. A boundary drawn in pixels and punctuation. I won't be coming home for Thanksgiving this year. I have plans with friends here. I hope you understand. I read it again, cursor hovering over, send. 3 months at university have built a foundation beneath me, Dean's List midterms, new friends who know nothing of Joseph. Weekends free from the weight of constant comparison. The thought of returning home makes my chest tighten. My phone lights up. Sloane's name appears on screen. Did you send it yet? She asks when I answer, her voice crisp against the background noise of her apartment. Still working up the nerve, I admit, watching raindrops race each other down my dorm window. November in Massachusetts brings early darkness and skies the color of wet cement. I'm not going either, Sloane says. I already told them last week. How'd they take it? A short, humorless laugh. Dad sent me a lecture about family traditions, Mom cried. The familiar guilt rises, but something new rises alongside it, determination. I press send before I can change my mind. Done, I say, the word carrying more weight than its single syllable suggests. Good for you, Sloane says. Boundaries, right? That's what my therapist calls it. The response comes faster than I expected. My phone buzzes with 3 successive texts from Mom, each more laden with emotional leverage than the last. Family needs to be together on holidays. What will we tell the neighbors? Your father and I are very disappointed. Then my phone rings. Dad. I let it go to voicemail. Grandma Margaret calls an hour later. They've been blowing up my phone, she says without preamble. Trying to get me to convince you. What did you tell them? That sometimes boundaries need to be clear. Her voice carries the steadiness of someone who's weathered many storms. Stand your ground, Josie. The week brings escalation. Dad's stern email lands in my inbox, thick with words like respect and tradition and proper family values. Uncle Robert forwards messages where my parents have reached out to cousins, trying to create a pressure campaign. The final blow comes on Saturday morning. A text from my neighbor back home. Sorry you couldn't get time off work for Thanksgiving. Your mom says you're working so hard at your campus job. Hope your boss gives you Christmas off at least. I sit on my bed, staring at my phone. The lie they've created wraps around me like old, familiar hands. Then Mom's message arrives. Since you can't come to us, we'll come to you. Dad and I will drive up Wednesday afternoon. We've already booked a hotel near campus. My fingers shake as I type my response. This isn't a good time for a visit. I think we should consider family counseling before we meet in person again. The reply comes within seconds. Therapy is unnecessary. We've always been supportive parents. I close my eyes, feeling the weight of 18 years of denial pressing down. When I open them, I text Grandma Margaret and Uncle Robert, then Sloan. Within an hour, our counterplans are set. Wednesday afternoon finds me sitting in the Golden Bean, a coffee shop 3 blocks from campus. I've chosen a corner table with 6 chairs. The place smells of cinnamon and espresso, music playing just loud enough to provide privacy without drowning conversation. My parents arrive first, 10 minutes early, Dad checking his watch as they enter, Mom scanning the room with anxious eyes. They spot me and approach, their smiles too wide, too rehearsed. There's our college girl, Mom says, leaning in for a hug I don't return. Uncle Robert and Grandma Margaret arrive 5 minutes later, their presence shifting the energy immediately. Dad's smile hardens. What are they doing here? He asks, voice tight. Support, I say simply, placing my phone at the center of the table, Sloane's face visible on the screen from her video call. Is this an ambush? Dad asks, color rising in his face. It's a conversation that's 18 years overdue, Sloane says from the phone. Dad straightens his shoulders, falling into the posture he uses at Rotary Club speeches. Now listen here, he begins, voice measured. Family loyalty is the foundation of... I open my backpack and pull out a manila envelope, sliding out several photos and placing them on the table. Baby pictures. Me in blue overalls. Me in a baseball cap. Me in a tiny suit at my christening. You named me Joseph, I say quietly. You dressed me as a boy. You introduced me as your son. Mom's hand trembles as she reaches for her water glass. Josie, we did the best we could with... No, Sloane interrupts, her voice clear through the speaker. You did what was easiest for you. You punished her for being born a girl, Grandma adds, her eyes never leaving my mother's face. For 18 years. The coffee shop continues its normal rhythm around used espresso machines hissing, customers chatting, music playing while at our table. Time seems suspended. We're your daughters, I say, meeting each of my parents' eyes in turn, not your projects. Sloane nods on screen. If you want a relationship with either of us going forward, we need 3 things. Her voice is calm but firm. First, acknowledge what you did without excuses. Second, I continue. Family therapy. Real participation, not just showing up. And third, Sloane finishes, respect for our boundaries going forward. Dad's face darkens to crimson. This is ridiculous. You've turned everyone against us. He gestures wildly toward Uncle Robert and Grandma, feeding them lies about. They're not lies if I lived them, I say, my voice steadier than I feel inside. Mom dabs at her eyes with a napkin. We love you, Josie. We've always loved you. We just wanted the best. You wanted a son, I correct her. And when you got me instead, you settled for having a lesser daughter. The silence that follows feels weighted with 18 years of unspoken truth. Grandma Margaret sighs, the sound heavy with disappointment. After all these years, she murmurs, and you still can't face it. I look at my parents, really look at them. Dad rigid with anger, Mom crumbling under the weight of exposure, neither capable of the simple words that might begin to heal this breach. A strange calm settles over me as I stand, gathering my photos and bag. I think we're done here, I say quietly. I walk away without looking back, the bell above the coffee shop door chiming a final note as I step into the crisp November air, breathing deeply for what feels like the first time in 18 years. A year later, my dorm room glows golden in the afternoon light. Unlike the stark white walls of my childhood bedroom, these walls tell stories: concert tickets from shows with friends who chose to be family, Polaroids of Sloane and me making ridiculous faces at the beach, and proudly centered above my desk, my Dean's List certificate in a simple black frame. "You managed to fit an entire life into 300 square feet," says Maya, my roommate, lounging across my bed with her sociology textbook. She points to the bulletin board where Grandma Margaret's latest letter sits prominently. "Your grandmother still writes actual letters. That's precious." I run my fingers over Grandma's familiar handwriting. She says email lacks soul. The truth is, simpler Margaret knows how much I treasure holding something she touched, a physical connection spanning the miles between us. 1 year. That's how long it's been since I walked away from that coffee shop table, since I stopped trying to extract water from the stone that is my parents' love. The calendar on my wall marks monthly sister weekends with little heart stickers. Purple circles indicate video calls with Grandma and Uncle Robert. What's missing speaks volumes: no photos of my parents anywhere in this carefully curated space. My phone buzzes with a text from Sloane. "Still on for Thanksgiving at my place?" Rob and Grams confirmed. "Bringing 2 pies and that green bean thing you pretend to hate but secretly love." I smile, typing back, "Wouldn't miss it. Making Mom's cranberry sauce recipe, one thing she got right." The irony isn't lost on me. The only maternal legacy I choose to carry forward is a recipe, not the emotional baggage I spent 18 years collecting. My therapist would call this progress. 3 sessions a month, courtesy of University Health Services, has taught me to recognize what's worth keeping and what needs releasing. On my desk sits my psychology journal, the one Professor Winters encouraged me to keep. Its pages chronicle the journey from confusion to clarity, from pain to purpose. Last week's entry marks a milestone. I helped another student, a freshman whose parents favor her twin brother, navigate the familiar territory of conditional love. "Sometimes the family we're born into isn't the family that helps us grow," I told her, words that would have sounded like empty platitudes a year ago but now carry the weight of lived experience. Maya glances at the single holiday card pinned to the corner of my bulletin board, the obligatory correspondence from my parents, featuring a stock family photo from 3 years ago, before the truth exploded.